Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. We drop one of these every single day around 1 p.m. UK time. We are late today and running behind schedule. We had a number of interviews that we've just got filmed that will be released in the coming weeks. In fact, one is coming out on Thursday with Brandon, the H-Bar Bull, somebody that we love having on. We really dive into H-Bar and all the various things taking place right now and relate that to the cryptocurrency space and the broader trends. So that'll be coming out Thursday. We are slightly behind schedule, but usually we drop one of these updates every single day at 1 p.m. UK time. So if you're not already a subscriber, do consider becoming one. Quite a bit all over the place to go over today. We're going to start things off with some UK news. There was an interesting bit of news actually in regards to a crypto scam from Lucy Powell. Essentially, her X account was hacked and used to promote a Solana scam token. We had inflation number from the UK. We had retail sales in the US. Both positive, inflation in the UK and retail sales in the US. Then we're going to talk about the kind of tariff roulette that is taking place right now. I just want to invest in cryptocurrencies that are going to change the world. I just want to buy my cryptos and just live a normal, simple life. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We need to pay attention to everything going on elsewhere because our space right now is just a deer in the headlights. It truly is. Whether eventually BlackRock's scenario, if things were to go belly up with tariffs, and I'm eternally an optimist, certainly think that tariffs, I've taken a different approach to tariffs in regards to saying I actually think they may become a net positive, not negative in regards to negotiations and lower tariffs across the board. But if things were to go belly up, do we see that kind of BlackRock scenario for Bitcoin where it kind of does well because of its global nature and decentralized nature? For now, it's just moving in sync with everything going on, and there very much is a tariff roulette taking place. There's also news that China perhaps are selling 15,000 Bitcoin. We'll look at this and look at some of the stories. Also, there was a fact sheet put out by the White House yesterday that actually talks about tariffs on China being as high as 245%. Kind of crazy. They might as well make it 1,000% right now. And I can't see this moving forwards in terms of that. Then we're going to look at some quarterly stats in regards to Q1 of 2025 is now done. And we saw a record purchasing of Bitcoin. Meanwhile, retail sentiment is really abysmal. And I think actually there could be a great kind of flushing out of retail right now before they enable this industry to do what I've believed for a long time it's going to. And that is fundamentally change the world as we know it, financially, socially, in every other way. You know, AI, there's going to be a crypto crossover, digital IDs, all of this stuff is ahead of us. And actually the Trump regime is working on a lot of it already. And then we'll look at some price action. Again, the cryptocurrency market doesn't really know what to do right now. Let's kick things off with a little bit of news in regards to UK inflation. It's slowed to cooler than expected at 2.6% in March. Now, I think the expectations I was expecting, or the markets were expecting, was 3. This is a good sign. I'm sure Labour are going to claim full victory over this. But we are generally, across the board, not seeing inflation uptick. And I don't believe it's going to, certainly in regards to the US, because I'm, of course, short WTI crude oil. I think Donald Trump is going to induce lower energy costs. And that might offset some of what may or may not come in regards to tariffs. And I can't tell you it's absolutely going to go this way or it's absolutely going to go that way. What I can say is actually if you really sort of think about the situation, I've been doing a lot of riffing with a lot of people. The US has all the cards here, and I ultimately think that people are going to kiss the ring when it comes to the US. Because could you imagine like Europe, the UK, a lot of the rest of the world not using Google, Facebook, a MasterCard, Visa, you know, all of these sort of things, which are all American companies? Not really. And who stands more to gain and lose here? It's other countries outside of the US, in my opinion, because ultimately there's a big deficit. The US is the largest net purchaser of everything. So good news. There was also interesting news that you guys might find interesting, but this is from Lucy Powell. Now, she is an MP. I'm unfamiliar with what kind of an MP she is, whether she's Labour or Conservative or any of the others. I know she's not Reform. House of Commons coin, HOC, a community-driven digital currency bringing people's power to blockchain, transparency, participation, trust. Oh boy. This is a scam, guys. UK MP Lucy M. Powell's X account was hacked and used to promote a Solana scam token called House of Commons Coin, a community-driven digital currency. The tweet has since been removed. Use your brain. I don't think anybody that listens to this channel, because I think, you got to be intelligent to listen to this channel, right? I don't think anybody would be falling for this. If it sounds too good to be true, don't bother with it. Just leave it alone. And in fact, we don't even push people into trading or investing. Just be safe. This is real money that you stand to lose in the cryptocurrency space. Also, we had retail sales. They increased by 1.4% in March, greater than expected. There's also news just coming in. Global trade outlook has deteriorated sharply. Who would have thought on tariffs? And this is what the markets are really pricing in. And that literal implementation of what was set out on Liberation Day. I happen to think, and what we've seen with the 90-day tariffs sort of pause is kind of a willingness to negotiate and a willingness to move away from that literal implementation or an escalation. And the markets have kind of priced in the worst, and now they've got a kind of half back of that, if that makes sense. They've got to kind of reprice based on, okay, well, the 90-day tariff thing was cool. It's probably done in the relationship to the yields and the debt that were going down as a result of that. With that, the markets have kind of, you saw that big jump, didn't you? And a lot of retail got stuck selling at the bottom of that. And then you saw that big jump. And the question is okay, well, are we going to get that bad scenario for tariffs and that continuation? Or are we going to get what I'm hopeful for and more of a believer in, and that is a resolve to all of this? And you could end up with net tariffs lower across the board and something that works more for everybody. Of course, I'm not a tariff guy. And on the topic of tariffs, before we dive into China potentially selling Bitcoin, this is from the White House. President Donald Trump ensures national security and economic resilience through Section 232 action on proceeds, critical mineral and derivatives products. And if you come down here, so I knew about 135% on China. It is more than... we could probably just read this whole thing. It's perhaps worth it. So on Liberation Day, President Donald Trump imposed a 10% tariff on all countries and individuals, reciprocal higher tariffs on nations with which the US has the largest trade deficit in order to level the playing field and protect American national security. More than 75 countries, we know it's about 135 countries now, have already reached out to discuss new trade deals, which is what we think the result is going to be. As a result, the individualized higher tariffs are currently paused amid these discussions, except for China, which retaliated. China now faces 245% tariffs on imports. Just make it 1,000% and get this over and done with at this point. There's going to have to be a negotiation out of this. I don't see this sticking. And I think really, for me, the US has all the cards. And I say that, and people get upset. Certainly people in the UK, people in Europe, people across the world get upset because, oh no, we're not at the behest of America. You are. In this country we are. And that's just not fiscally in terms of the monetary regime that we currently live under. It's technologically. It's militarily. And I think there is going to be a resolve to all of this. The markets, though, and we will relate all this to the crypto space because it's relevant, are just in kind of it's like a tariff roulette right now, really. And uncertainty, when there's uncertainty, people don't spend. People typically don't buy until they wait to see how things pay off or play out. But I'm a big believer that actually situations like this create major opportunities. Also, there was news circulating on Twitter. This is just a few of them. You type in China Bitcoin. Just in China, local government sells 15,000 Bitcoin worth 1.2 billion via offshore private entity, and that's from Reuters. China's state and city governments are selling their seized Bitcoin, selling seized crypto despite ban. In whether there's kind of a soft ban, and I won't say how I know that in regards to Bitcoin and crypto more broadly in China. I'd have thought that the Chinese government would essentially be doing the opposite. However, apparently not. I'm sure we're going to get more on all of this, despite them selling 1.2 billion, and it would have likely been OTC. Bitcoin still doesn't look that bad. Yesterday, I've just left this on here quickly before I take it off. We were looking at the global monetary supply with a 108-day lead because this has been a great predictor for Bitcoin's price action, certainly historically. And, you know, it could play out once again. And also we've got confidence in regards to that falling wedge that we have. But despite the Chinese government potentially selling $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin still looks in a great place, in my opinion. And I think this is just going to turn out to be a continuation pattern that's ultimately going to lead you to the upside. And that's, you know, we've got confidence with that in regards to our technical targets. Really, right now, you're just at the behest of everything that we're talking about previous to this. You know, the stock market closed down yesterday. The real question that I've got to try and ask and answer is, are we going to see a recovery for the stock market and thus markets more broadly, or are we going to see contagion? And that has everything to do with what's taking place. And it's important for us to watch. Like I say, I just want to buy crypto. I don't want to have to sort of pay attention to all this, but you do have to, whether you like it or not. Just like if you're an investor, I do believe you should get familiar with charts because I think you're going to be a better investor as a result of it. But the question is, are we going to see a recovery? Are we going to see a kind of 2008, this is when Donald Trump's tariffs happened last time, recovery? I think so, to be honest. That's what I'm hopeful for. And I think there's going to be a resolve to everything. And I think, you know, you're at this kind of sweet spot for the cryptocurrency space where it, in my opinion, is ready for continuation. We just need to see some resolve. So if you have a good day in the S&P and the stock market today, crypto will have a good day. If you have a bad day, vice versa, you know. And it's a shame that we're so correlated. I think, for me, actually, I'm excited about the fact that we are just so correlated and in sync with it because it kind of shows us how early we are. We're yet to even see cryptos move off their own fundamentals, barring Bitcoin. And of course, this is where Bitcoin maxis fundamentally get things wrong, is they think everything's trying to be Bitcoin. Some positive news. Quarterly Bitcoin holdings. Purchased in Q1. So there was nearly 100,000 Bitcoin purchased in Q1 by institutions. How much was China selling again? Was it 15,000? So we've engulfed all of that. And it's kind of saddening to me that whilst retail is really in dismay, institutions are loading up on what they're about to enable, and the government is in kind of cahoots with them to do so. Retail's a loser here in all of this, as always. But that's life, I'm afraid. But pay attention to this stuff. There's no Bitcoin really on exchanges. Record low Bitcoin on exchanges. There's the most amount of buyers introduced to the markets has ever been. Yes, okay. Economically, geopolitically, we're suffering based on the tariffs. But once there's any kind of resolve to that, I mean, you're going to see some pretty insane things, I think. You're going to see multiple, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 Bitcoin, I reckon. Certainly 300,000 we've got technical merit for. And what that means for the altcoin sector is Bitcoin dominance going to be going down in that time period? Is it not? We're still yet to see. Is something truly spectacular. Also interesting, the MicroStrategy is up 7% year to date, while QQQ is down 10%. Is not something I would have predicted. I'm also surprised BTC is at 85k after all this. Both good signs, in my opinion. Shows toughness and counters that it's just a high beta version of tech. It is a beta version of tech, and it is a high beta version of tech. But there can be periods of things not correlated. Also, we should do a video on why gold's doing what it's doing. You know, we have been predicting now a $3,500 gold price for years. That's coming to fruition, and I think there's a great takeaway from that. But that's probably beyond the scope of this video. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from me. As always, I'm going to love and leave you. I do apologize for the later video today. It's coming out about an hour and a half later than what we usually like to get a video out. However, a number of things to take care of. I hope you enjoyed this one. That's it from me, guys. I'll see you all on the flip side.